following the new curriculum. But, there's an update but here, if following the old curriculum would facilitate your graduation faster, syempre decide sa okay? But if the status right now is a clear path, then we'll decide right now on the path. Okay? Kasi I have a case, should be new curriculum, pero she'll graduate, she'll graduate if we're going to follow the old one. So, okay, supposedly off the record, no? For those students under my Com 1 last term, if you belong to the 10% na I have not
yet shown the grades to, utang ko yun. Mamaya, gagawin ko na siya. Obviously, I've been dealing with a lot of backlogs. First, ito, yung sa orientation, and at the same time, transferring everything to Professor.
And you would excuse her because she's also assuming an entirely new role, being the chair of a master's program.
Yes. So,
okay. The program structure, as I mentioned, there are students, AA students following the old curriculum, so batch 2005 to 2010 year of entry. Older than the old curriculum. Who are those, by the way? You mentioned one. Okay. Pero kung mag-graduate, there's a huge chance na makaka-graduate na kayo, di ba? Yes. Okay, and then the new curriculum people, so the young ones, sorry. But we still have how many? Later we'll discuss further. I'll ask you actually graded recitations.
Okay. Exactly.
Lecture on recitation structure. Okay. MRR, as mentioned a while ago, you have how many years to finish the AA program? Ideally, you have 7 years. So later I'll discuss regarding that, and then we'll summarize down the program checklist. You have the hard copies with you. And then the usual course offerings per term. As of now, at least the prescribed courses we're able to finalize yung pattern. Hopefully for all, we'll be able to do with 3. Okay, and then academic advising, yung the structure and procedure. And then of course the must-knows. Under must-knows, these are the processes, procedures that you'll encounter as you go through the AA journey, especially for the batch, the new curriculum batch. Okay, 60 units plus 8 units of PE and the CWATs or NSTP courses. The minimum load is 3 units, maximum load is 12. When will you be allowed to take 15 units? If you are in your last term in AA, last term.
Ano for example, na-take ng 12 tapos may CW pang
Okay. Valid question yan.
Or PE?
By the 12 units, what are we referring to? Academic courses. So, ano yung hindi kasama doon? The PE courses and CWAS courses. But I'm a part-time student, so I'm working. Will I be allowed to take 12 units? Kasi ideally, you're suggested, you're recommended, highly recommended to take 3 to 6 units lang per term if you're working, if you're a part-time student. But will you be allowed to take 12? Bakit yung sound lang, S lang yung naging ko? Part, yes. Yes, it's a resounding yes. Why? You'll be allowed 12 units. Why? It's the maximum load. And it's your responsibility if you want to take 4 courses, academic courses, that's fine by us. But make sure, of course, make sure that you pass the course. Otherwise, may extended there. Okay? But if you're a full-time student, let's do this the other way around. Will you be allowed to take just 3 units? Oh, bakit this time the yes is a question mark naman? Yes. Okay. What do you mean depends? Just a yes or no question. Will you be allowed? Yes. Why? It's the minimum required number of units, and in the same way, if you feel, even though you're a full-time student, but you feel that you can only take and finish and pass just 1 course, that's also fine by us. Because ideally, you should be aware of the consequence. Medyo may extend ka nga lang. But sure ka naman na mapapasa mo siya. So, okay lang yun. Walang problema yun. AA kasi, it's just like a very reliable friend who does not demand too much of you. Kahit ginagamit mo na siya, okay lang. Provided, ang gusto lang niya ay maging successful ka sa iyong buhay at sa future mo. No, seriously, AA is a liberal arts program that allows you to pursue a bachelor's degree. So, that's why yung majority would be GE courses. Para rin, ideally, you'll be credited. If you feel that you can proceed to the bachelor's degree. Now, you must finish the program within 7 years. So, for students who entered the program last 2008-2009, ayoko na, sige, hindi tayo mag-pinpoint. Ideally, this should be your last year in the program. Ideally. So we have to, I guess we have to discuss ano yung mga options nyo. If you're older pa, di-discuss natin ang options. Because if we are going to be really very strict and we're going to follow the policy, dapat out na tayo dun sa program. Okay. Now, for the old curriculum, how many prescribed courses should you finish for those following the old curriculum? No, prescribed. Kasi we have the prescribed, the required courses, tapos we have the elective courses. Alright, 15, so 5. These courses. Alright, you only have Comp 1, Math 1, Comp Ed 1, History 1, PI 100. No, you have to think that this is also your orientation. Okay. Tapos, and then, for courses under the LH courses or Language and Humanities courses, for those following the new curriculum AH na siya, the Social Science courses or SS courses, in your case, that would be SSP. For MSP, still MSP courses. And we'll consider that as elective courses. So, even if you take courses na nasa new curriculum, let's say SOC Sci 13, that's not part of your curriculum anymore, right? The old curriculum, can you still take it?
Yes.
Under SS? Yes? Why?
Ano ba yung pagin na part-time?
Na?
Yung sa social science.
Okay, very good. Okay. Okay. It will be considered kasi free naman kayo what SS courses to take. Diba? So even if it's not included in the curriculum, old curriculum, the program curriculum, okay lang yun kasi it's offered under the same domain or cluster. I failed to clarify. The AH or LH, SS, SSP, MSP courses, domains yun, cluster of the AA program. And then you still have the PE courses and then NSTB courses. However, for the new batch, how many prescribed courses? How many? I'm not asking for units anymore. How many prescribed courses should you take? Ideally, you should just look at your program checklist, diba? You have. Okay. 11, including the PI 100. Sa inyo, kasama na si PI 100, right? So, 4 lang talaga plus PI 100. In your case, 10 plus PI 100. Under AH, you have Com 1, Com 2. Under SS, you have History 1 or CAS 1. Either History 2 or CAS 2. Sorry, this should be 2. And then MST, it should be Math 1 and SDS. And then we have these 4 courses na other required courses. Then the PI 100. Clear? Okay. Next. As for the usual course offerings, I mentioned na we're able to finalize kahit pa paano, konti na lang yung changes nga if ever. We're aiming to have 3 to 4 prescribed courses per term, tapos 1 to 2 courses, elective courses per cluster or per domain, per term. So, based on the pattern since 2012, Com 1 during first term siya, Com 2 second term, and then we have History 1 and so on and so forth. But take note, History 2, it should have been offered this term. What is our main consideration sa pag-offer although we're closely following this talaga, the cross offerings, of course, and we're planning ahead na, looking for FICs. It depends on the FIC availability. Kasi di ba we mentioned earlier, we have affiliate faculty members, or the bulk actually of the FICs ng UPOU. They have mother units, mga CUs. That's why, when I introduced the full-time faculty, mataas kilay mo, full-time faculty members earlier, konti lang siya. Kasi the bulk, galing yan sa iba-ibang CU. So, syempre, they also have academic load, teaching load there. Aside from the research load, that's extension work, and
then some of them study abroad, so there are many reasons where, for one particular term or one particular trimester, subject might not be offered.
But if you are to compare it to residential campuses, relatively successful pa tayo in terms of course offerings, na konti bihira itong mangyari, na walang slot and all that. Residential students, they have to beg for their slots. They have to sing and dance in front of the faculty.
UP naman has a very large backlog, so UPOU, you guys don't have to suffer that same.
I mean, I should know. I used to do that to my students. Joke. Okay. But because History 2 or Cast 2 won't be offered, well, History 2 won't be offered this term, it'll be definitely offered next term. Tapos same thing for Comp Ed 2. Comp Ed 2 will takes the place kasi of History 2 this term. Kasi we have an FIC for that. So, ganun lang naman siya. Pero, final na to. Ito talaga, this is, since we already know na, okay, we have to offer these courses for the coming terms, so we have to find FICs available. If the usual FIC is not available, then we have to find another one. Worst case scenario, malamang wala talaga pwede. Or, since Ram will be your new PC, then he'll teach all the courses na wala. Okay, for the elective courses, these courses are a bit complicated kasi, and elective, but the target, really, the goal is for an elective course to be offered at least once per term. Take, for example, NATSAI 1. The usual pattern of NATSAI 1 is first term offered 2012, second term 2013, first term 2013, second term 2014, third term siya supposedly by next academic year. So, may 3 terms na pagitan. Unlike here na 2 terms lang. But we're working on making it like this, the pattern. But we could try. Try natin. But if we're going to stick with the old usual arrangement na 3 terms yung in between, yung offering, then we'll still publish that. Tapos para you can plan ahead. And in case, since elective naman siya, you can still take other elective courses under the same domain. Diba? If it's not going to be offered. With that information, and yung mga ipopost pa.
Yeah. Very simple, but wherever you read, for example, come to prerequisite, part 1. Very simple, but if it says prerequisite, you cannot take on 2 if you do not have a passing grade in Form 1. So it doesn't matter if you have an EXT, that's not a passing grade. No. Just because we get questions like that all the time, and obviously if it's a prerequisite, it's a prerequisite. You can't skip it. So you can't take Comp Ed 2 without Comp Ed 1, no matter how dire the situation is. So you have to plan it.
Yeah, unless, because you have specific cases, right? So you have to consult, of course, your PC. And then, the process here is after consulting your PC, you'll have to fill out a form. So you may be allowed.
Very rare cases.
It depends kasi on the PC and the FIC of that particular course.
Such as, maybe you're graduating or something truly meritorious. But if it was just out of whim and you just haven't been doing your planning, and I will be the PC signing on that, you can bet your house on it that I probably.
Plus the fact that you're aware na, right now, and even in the program curriculum. Okay, because you have all those information, ideally first you should self-advise. Kasi di ba we're aiming nga for adult learners. So when you contact your PC, should be later discussed. And then if you're still not sure, you have the AA Matters microsite, which Sir Ram
Which has been updated. And we're improving it even. So you would notice slightly different.
although the catch is baka mag-info overload kayo kasi everything's written, diba, doon. But yun nga, still, with all this information, it's orientation, plus you have your program checklist with you, the course offerings for the next term. Usually naman, before the registration starts, at least 2 weeks mag-release na ng course offerings. Plus yung pattern that I just showed. So, pwede nyo nang plan ang inyong buhay, estudyante. So, pang ano na lang to, pang buffer na lang si AA Matters microsite. And then, for the emails, you self-advised already. Ideally, we want you to use your UPOU email ad. If you're having problems with that, then you sign up dun sa sinabi nila kanina. Before, we have the AA program 08 at gmail.com for students, AA students following the old curriculum. Andun kasi yung records because before we didn't have an official UPOU email ad yet. Now, I requested you use the official UPOU email ad na. And then it's just going to be our responsibility to backtrack yung mga records there. Dun sa Gmail. So lahat would be addressed to the AA program share UPOU.edu.ph. And then, state your full name, your student number, batch of entry, and share or attach your updated program checklist para the advising will be easier. Kasi, okay, I know. And also, you yourself can state the highlights of your self-advising. I know that I still lack these courses, this number of units. Based on my, please see my program checklist. You can verify, but I'm sure na-check ko na siya. At ito yung mga kailangan ko. I think this will be the next step to take. Do you agree? Parang ganun na lang yung tone ng email natin sa PC. And of course, you have to have a clear subject heading. Why? How many AA students do we have? How many PC do you have? Although may multiple personality. Okay, so medyo mahirap if the subject of your email ay vague, mahirap siyang ma-spot. And you have to be aware of the offices or the channels that you have to go through. Like, if yun nga, as mentioned by a faculty secretary a while ago, if you have to drop a course officially, you have to have it processed through your LC, yung mga ganun ba? Or meron naman kasi tayo, we have processes that you can simply send online to the Fed mailer, CC nyo na lang si PC after, since pagpa-advise na kayo. Now, for those specific processes, on registration, you can, yun nga, self-advise, consult the PC. Bakit naka-red yan? If you're really confident with the courses that you should take, FYI na lang si PC. That's fine. Unless Sir Ram will really require you that you have to consult me first before you finalize your registration. The problem is that will be a real burden for you.
And for the most part, it's truly self-facilitated. So if you just read the checklist,
The course
there as
offerings.
support, like you can on your own, you should be able to understand it.
So if you've sent that email already, email notice, it's more on, I'm informing you, sir, that this is what I'm going to take. I'm going to finalize this registration now. So whether or not he responds within the registration period, finalize yun na siya. I mean, you're confident naman, di ba, that ito yung kailangan ko eh. Hindi ka naman yung papaalam na, no, you should not take that. Ito dapat na. Or you can process it online and then, or assisted by your LC and then confirm na. So, simple lang yun. Familiar naman na tayo because most of you are continuing students, right?
So, also just to add, which is why it's very important that you plan ahead. What happens is, then you're pressed for time, like it's the deadline for the registration.
I don't know. Oh, yeah.
So, you're rattled and you're rattling the PC,
Everybody
secretary.
rattles.
So, but the thing is, so you can think of it as sort of a trade-off. The upside to distance education is that you actually have a lot of freedom. have a lot of room for your own schedule. Not not an infinite freedom, but the parameters that it's truly wide, the space for yourself. Now the downside to that is that you also need to be much more proactive in planning, and you want to know what do I need.
Yung nahihirapan ng para sa kanila. After I talk, and then you talk, kapag gano'n sila, and talk.
So you want to know what you need and what you. So I'm saying that also because when you're rattled, your communication is probably affected, and then
in turn,
you elicit such a response, right? Versus you've read it just a few weeks before, and then you're informing the piece, or maybe you have just a clarification. Then the exchange is much better. So because that would be with me. And while I can be nice, I can also not be so nice. Just off the bat, so I'm probably going to be very different from the way that she treated you guys. So off the bat, we know that. Now, you see me here, you know that I'm a real person. I can be reasonable, but we also want you to learn the skills that you need for facilitating your own degree earning. So, you're really working towards yourself. You're working towards that. I mean, it's it.
okay, next. Questions ba? May questions? Yeah.
Questions.
Regarding registration? Check. Okay. Next, on TOC, transfer of credit request. Who among you are students of the batch 2014 here? Yay! Okay, mga bunso nyo. Bunso ng AA. Welcome. Alright. Who may request for TOC? Who?
What's TOC, by the way?
Transfer of credit, I just mentioned. Okay. Sino? Who? Yes, dear. Okay. So, what kind of students can apply for TOC? Okay, if you've already earned academic units in other universities, and you know na pwede siyang, there's a potential that it will be credited. When shall this be requested? Ideally, on your first term. Why? Kasi we don't want you to duplicate the courses that you will take here kung maka-credit naman pala siya. Although,
science, effort, so we want to honor that. You've
Oras
worked
panahon
towards
sila.
that already.
You may consult the PC, bakit siya in red din? If you yourself know, kasi you have the program, the curriculum, you know that, for example, Com1 is a prescribed course, but I've already, based on the course title and description, I've taken something similar to that, kung hindi siya from other CU, if it's from another university. So yun, you can consult, or pwedeng you go directly to processing the TOC. Submit the completed form plus your TOR. Ayun pala, some of you mentioned na they don't have a copy of their TORs anymore, which is weird for us, kasi it's your valid proof, diba? I mean, it's not easy to get a TOR from university, so bakit nyo siya i-let go basta? At least with a photocopy you should have. So, meron bang may ganung problem? Wala man? Okay, wala. There.
So that you don't have that kind of problem, we request for it.
Yeah.
So you need it, and it's ready.
Either from the university where you're from, or since our OUR admission section naman has a copy, diba? Maybe you can ask. Well, definitely you can ask for a copy of that TOR you submitted. And then the faculty secretary, it's in red kasi may madugo pang prosesong nangyayari dito sa araw na to. They have to. The Office of the Faculty Secretary has to evaluate, of course. If you take BEs or you simply request for course substitution. Now, what shall you do next? After the notification, of course, you have to take the BE, the validation exam, or file the necessary request for sub. What shall you do? Yung mga nakapag-file na while you're waiting.
Wait for the notification.
Okay, wait for the notification and credit siya officially. Take the courses that you can take na hindi kasama dun sa in-apply mo. I mean, it's definitely, I would find it weird if you cannot take any course na hindi kasama dun sa POC application. Questions?
Question.
Yes.
Since the TOC will still need the validation exam, you don't have any assurance yet
No.
that it's going to be credited, right?
It's either you need to take a VE, a validation exam, or you'll simply be asked to file for a course substitution. Meaning you don't need to take an exam anymore because based on the evaluation, it really is an equivalent course. So magpa-file ka lang ng form so that it will be made official, the accreditation.
Okay. Is the validation exam like a real exam that you have to take?
Yes.
And
Yes.
there's a chance that you will pass or fail.
Yes.
And if you fail it, you cannot transfer the credit.
You have to take that course.
Okay.
Yes. Because of course, mostly these courses are courses that you took outside University of the Philippines, right? So we have to make sure that in terms of the content of the how you understood the topics under that course, it's the same way that UP students should understand it. Or the same course content and all that. That's why it's easier also if you in your TOC application, there's a copy of your curriculum in that university. Para if there's a description, nakikita rin agad ng Office of the Faculty Secretary, okay, in terms of the content, equivalent naman pala talaga siya.
In fact, if you can attach the syllabus itself
Yeah.
of that
If you have.
particular course, so that the processing, you're helping yourself, that that you're proving that it's good.
Question.
Yes.
For example, I do Betsy Comped one from school. And yung letter ko nakuha sa iyo, sinasabi credit mo. Pag hindi naman ako na-use ano yun?
Then the university did it for you. Tapos, naka-reflect siya in your online records that is credited.
Parang gano'n.
Hindi para ganun. You see it.
Sa site, sa academic record, all I ask the letter na sabi you are credited.
You still have a copy. You can access that letter.
I have a copy.
Okay. Okay, send it sa
Yep.
email.
You
Because
will
we have to make sure anong klase letter of notification siya. If you did not submit a TOC application, but that letter states na it's credited, then it's credited. Maybe because at that time, I'm not sure what happened, but hindi nakapag-file ng TOC. But you had to, kasi equivalent naman siya. So, ginawa na ng university for you. O, di ba? Ang bait-bait ng MBA. Kahit hindi nyo minamahal yung joke lang. Yes, dear.
Question ko, parang other way around.
Yeah.
Natapos na ako dun sa course substitution, kinasa ko na siya sa,
Yeah, course
sa
sub,
secretary. Ang nangyari, walang notification, walang letter ako nakuha, pero dun sa online records, lumabas na siya.
Credited. That's fine. Okay.
I don't
Ibig
have to,
sabihin,
do I
yeah.
have to keep like yung mga copies ng syllabus? Kasi I remember, nung nag-usap kami sa main office, sa headquarters, sabi sa akin, I have to keep daw yung mga records kasi pag nag-apply ako for graduation, tingnan daw yun. So,
Is there a reason why you won't keep it?
no, what I mean is, what would happen kung sakaling I applied for graduation? For some reason, I lost the documents. Parang,
Okay. For whatever reason, just in case. Worst case scenario. Okay. Because it's already credited and it is reflected in your online records, wala ka ng problema doon.
So, okay na siya.
Yeah. Wala
I think
nang
that was
problema. Okay.
more precautionary, just in case, that you would have been reminded to still try.
Kasi I just thought na parang pag nag-apply ako ng graduation, mas
No.
yung kanila.
You've been approved.
Yes.
I just have two questions. First term here in UU and I already applied for a TOC. What if I realize that there is another subject that I would like to be credited on? Can I still apply that particular?
Ideally, it'll just be taken only once. Wait lang. Is that course included in your proof, in your POR as well?
Yes.
Okay. Usually, pag ganun yung nangyayari, the Office of our Faculty Secretary is gracious enough to include mga courses na ganun. Pag nakita niya, ay bakit hindi niya nilagay, dapat nilagay.
Okay.
But to make it formal also and official, you may also inquire,
Yeah.
baka you will be needing to file for a new one. But ideally, it's just going to be filed once lang dapat.
Okay.
So, to make it official, mag-email na lang tayo.
Yeah. Second question.
Yes.
Do I came from UP Diliman, and do you have a list of courses from UP Diliman that I can credit here? For example, a different course that is equal to
GE then.
Math 1.
The thing, Math 1.
Math 1, for example, I believe in Diliman they consider it between 3 to 4 because I already completed the Math 50 series. So, is there a way for me to
It's not exactly Math 1.
I
17?
I regret to inform you, but I've suffered the same. I took calculus, but that's not good enough for math 1.
Okay.
So it's different.
They personally think that it's not equivalent to math society because it is.
Unless it's Math 11 na, if you
17.
take Math 17, yung may kasi there are topics, majority of the topics are covered as well.
Yeah.
Pero in that scenario kasi,
Okay. Thank you.
na, next. Yes, dear. Sorry, that.
Yung nasa curriculum kasi, CWT is 1 and 2.
Mm.
Pero under naman sila ng umbrella ng NSTP. So, do you accept ROTC?
Yes.
Alright. So, makikredit ang ROTC as CWT.
Yep.
Copy. Thank you.
Yes, dear.
Nag-apply ako for TOS sa PE. May pinagkata siya sa portal. Pero ang sabihin press to submit POR.
Did you submit before?
I did. Because na-validate ko siya test. Naka-reflect na siya sa portal ko.
I mean, regardless kung nag-reflect siya dun sa portal, did you submit in the first place?
Yes,
Okay,
I
but
submitted when I requested for it. Kasi that's what
online, email, right?
Yes.
Oh, we can tell that through email na this is what I did po, tapos through the LC and so on and so forth. So why do I need to submit? You can ask why. Bakit ba? Baka naman meron siyang reason behind. Bakit?
Dahil daw dun sa, I asked the coordinator. Kasi di ba hindi naman maka-approve yung application ko for TOC kung wala akong valid na POR na sinunod.
Okay, there are cases before na kahit temporary, based on email correspondence, TCG muna to follow the TOR. May ganun kasing cases before eh. So, ayun. Kaya,
So,
hindi pwede read it. It's not valid reasoning.
Wala, yun na. Nakalagay din siya sa mismong portal din, portal page.
First, you should inform sino yung nag-ask kayo for a new TOR. And for what purpose?
Naka-verify na siya na submit the valid TOR, blah, blah, blah. And then may email address. But I submitted that naman sa mismo sa...
For TOC, yung notice. Ayan. It's not for the... Wait lang. Even in your admission, you submitted a TOR?
Hindi. For
Exactly. Dapat, actually, ayan pala. Some of you, actually, hindi pa kayo full-time students at may karapatan pa na natanggalin kayo dun sa program because you're on probationary status because you did not fulfill the requirements of the basic requirements of the program. So I guess that's why nag-a-ask kayo ng TOR to finalize kasi para hindi ka magka-problema dun sa graduation. Kasi everything will be questioned during the graduation, not just by us, the faculty. And wala pang problema nga dun eh. If i-elevate na siya sa University Council, Faculty Council, University Council, then ask, why is the student graduating if hindi pa na ipapasa pala ito and so on and so forth. So it's for another thing, it's not for TOC.
I will be submitted in the same document.
Oh, but at the same time, but I have to clarify na, this is, that I'm submitting this document for blah, 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 blah. Although I've actually submitted this for TOC request. Pwedeng ganun mo kasi i-refer, baka naman pwede nilang i-recall yung document doon sa, diba? Okay, next. Done? TOC? Okay. PE exemption request. Who may request for this ulit? Na-mention it earlier. 30 na ako. Pwede ba ako mag-request? When? May key yun. Okay, when you enter the program. So what if, ma'am, 29 ako nung pumasok ako sa AA. The next month, AA student na ako, 30 ako. Can I apply for a PE exemption? Unfortunately, you can't. And anyway, healthy naman ang PE courses. And if you can't afford face-to-face na PE, we have naman enough PE courses offered, the 8 units required here in UPOU. When shall you request this? Ideally, kasabay siya ng TOC if you earn credits outside UP sa first term mo. Mamaya nag-PE, nag-walking for, kinareer si walking for fitness, pwede naman palang ma-exempt. Okay naman din yun, kasi you'll be healthier. Diba? Kaya lang, nag-enroll ka pa rin, nag-effort ka pa rin instead of focusing on your academic courses, mga ganun ba? So, ito yung the process, procedure. Well, na-discuss naman na to kanina. I just want to highlight the written request. This is a formal letter addressed to the dean. So, make sure that you check your draft, no? And 157 student. Hello.
Income to student. So, for reals, I do write down notes on the side if I find that the letter addressed to the faculty to the dean isn't at par as we would have expected, because sometimes it's too informal. There's text speak, and I don't understand how in the university context it's not.
And it doesn't have to be naman a really complex letter. You just have to indicate there that your situation, I was 30 or older than that when I entered the program, and I believe I'm qualified to be exempted from the PE course. Attached here is my blah, blah, blah. Diba? Ang sabi na, format na yung joke. Next. Cross-reg. Ayan. I'm looking at you, 2011 and younger students. Why would you even consider doing this? Pwede naman. The question is why. I just want you to be clear on that. Sa sarili nyo mismo. Bakit? Bakit natin ito kailangan i-consider? Na-mention kanina, why?
Sanity.
Okay, sige. One.
PE courses.
Oh, the PE courses. Kasi I think, sure, you have the freedom naman to take PE courses other than the 3 courses and the PE one here. What else? If it's not going to be offered for this term and you need it to graduate, and it's not going to be offered term 2 na ngayon, no? So, for term 3, so that you'll be able to graduate. So for this year, in short, that's the only reason. Actually, that's the only valid reason. In the first place, if you want, I want as for my long-term plan, I want to transfer po ng speech ko, Diliman. So I will need this course. That's well and good that you have a future plan already. So meaning target mo talagang tapusin si AA, tapos you go there. The thing is, just enroll in a residential setting. Bakit mo pa? Why would you waste your time here? After taking naman 18 units, tapos with good academic standing, you can apply as a transfer.
Because so we're helping you out here. If that is you, then actually it's not a good route to go through the whole 60 units of the AA program, because UP Diliman will not accept you being a former UPOU student if you have not finished all 60. Versus if you were in another residential school, in any other school, you only need 33 units from that residential school to transfer to UP Diliman. So this isn't the best way to do that. And
so yun, no, if the courses won't be offered, then you can consider cross-registration. Tapos the usual, you have to consult with your program chair first. Why? Because you have to finalize your courses in UPOU first. Para makita natin ilan ba yung, because the maximum minimum number of academic load allowed, because of that, potential implication in terms of your graduation, because take note of this. Okay, first you have to register in UPOU. Remember the maximum number of units allowed to register per term, unless it's your last term, in which case you'll be allowed to maximize. You have to remember that at least 50% of your academic units must be earned in UPOU. Because first and foremost, you're an AA student, you're a UPOU student. So if you plan on finishing that program, then we'll help you do it. But you have to help us as well. Take note of the difference as well in academic calendars. Ito yon, kaya kailangan, you have to finalize your UPOU registration first. For first term, medyo walang problema. The Faculty of Education is really gracious enough na ihabol kahit patapos na yung first term and your grades in UP Diliman for their first semester or UPLB, for example, has not been released, baka kaya pa in terms of the schedule of the faculty council meetings and university council meetings. So, pwede. But, that's a risk as well. Mas risky if you're cross-registering second term natin and second sem ng CU. Why? Kasi ang end ng second sem nila will be middle ng third term natin. So, you'll still be a third term graduate. Now, if we have naman a choice and an option to take everything in UPOU, edi yun na lang gawin natin, di ba? Para less hassle pa rin tayo pag-reflect nyo ng grades doon. After filling out the correct form, ayun pa, that's why you need to consult your PC. You have to have the correct form filled out in terms of the courses, tapos number of units na finalize sa home unit and then sa CU. Kasi, if may disapprove dyan, dahil hindi kayo nagpa-consult before filing, kailangan nyo yan ulitin. So, nag-waste tayo ng time nyo, time ng office, time ng PC.
Mas magagalit kayo.
Oo, ito na po yung sked ng cross-registration for this PE course. Kailangan ko na po yung form. Ano pong gagawin ko? Iyak na lang tayo.
So just a reminder, cross-registration is not a right. You ask for permission for that to happen.
And then the last step, it's not enough that you get the cross-reg approved, tapos the slot, tapos you're a student there. Your final grade, kasi hindi pa rin yung ma-reflect sa atin. You have to show the proof and ask from there na ibigay yun to your assistant na your LC. Para ma-reflect. Okay, dropping of courses. Bakit daw kailangan officially drop? Dapat. Bakit natin kailangan targetin yun? Why do you have to make this official? Because your FIC has the right, really, to give you a 5, and we don't want that. No? Although,
They're very kind, actually. I think they really do try and consider your situation. But they really do have the right to give you a plan.
but yun nga, take note of the schedule kasi you have naman the schedule. Ito yung the steps, the procedures. Bakit? Wait lang. Bakit? Why do you have to file for LOA, for leave of absence? Kapag,
Because you get kicked out of the school, basically.
Kasi kapag nag-awol ka pa, kailangan pang mag-readmission. You'll go through that process again. And what if your records pala, this is not a really good student, why would we readmit this? Nakita ko yung pala. And the faculty meeting. Ito pala yung records niya. What's our guarantee that this student will do well this time? Ganun ba? Although, syempre, pa rin naman. Alright. Removing and completing deficiencies. Ay, sorry, question pala. Ayun.
Clear ko lang po yung sa LOA. Kapag nag-file ka ng LOA, hindi siya counted sa MRR.
Counted lahat.
So kapag nag-LOA ka, kasama pa rin yung 7 years.
What? Are you planning on
Hindi
filing
po.
for it?
Pero kasi, nag-file ko kasi ng LOA before.
Kasama yun. So, since you're year of entry, na-count siya. So, I have to talk to some students later, I guess. Okay. What are the deficiencies for, dalawa lang yan, for NEXT, or extension? Ayun, take note of the date. At pala, on removing. If for some reason, hindi natin, siguro hindi nyo nahabol or whatever, you receive the 4 or EXT, paano siya i-remove? Kailan siya i-remove? First, of course, you have to be registered. Within that term, na plano siya i-remove. In terms of period, you have 1 year to remove that deficiency. But, yun nga, you have to remove it. Say, if you plan to remove it, say, you received an EXT first term, last term lang. You want to remove it now. This term. When's the deadline? February 20, filing, tapos March 14, the schedule for removal. Exactly. Depending on the FIC, kapag EXT kasi, sometimes, pwedeng mag-internal na kayo. As soon as you file the necessary form, ipasa mo lang sa akin to ng ganitong date. The burden's on me to have the final rate reflected na within the time. So on and so forth. Pero kailangan register kayo. Kapag awol kayo status, kailangan nyo pang mag-re-admit, kailangan nyo pang mag-residency, since hindi wala kayong course na i-delay, tsaka pa lang mag-finalize yung naging. So, madugo siya. Kaya syempre, ang aim natin, wala tayong 4 at least. Okay? Diba yan? Target natin yan, ha? Pero, ayun nga, busy people, maraming din commitments. Kung hindi na talaga if you cannot, if that's the final grade, then make sure that you include it in your schedule, in your calendar. Take notes na lang of the date. Take note na lang of the date, right? Okay. Ayun, how long na answer that already? Yes.
Kasi yung last year, yung 2013,
Oo, last year.
2013, may pinita ko is 2.
Tapos,
ang lumabas, 4. So pwede ko siya i-take before mag-fit. Kasi syempre, lumabas yung 5 buwan ng bakasyon namin.
when do anong term yun? Mana
So
4?
last year, last year.
Last year is 2014.
No, I mean 2013.
Third term, 2013, 2014 na academic year.
Yes.
Third term, 2013. You still have up to third term, 2014, 2015. Up to term 3 now. Kung na-remove mo na siya,
Hindi ko pa ma-access. Hindi ko ma-access.
but you filed. Have you filed for removal?
Haven't yet. Okay. Okay, kasi nagkaalala ako dahil nga yung...
Again, one school year, one academic year.
Okay.
There's an adjustment. Nag-adjust. Obviously, nag-adjust na yung academic calendar, di ba? So, yung mga dates na yun, nag-adjust din siya. Basta third term.
Isa lang. This year.
Okay, and enrolling in residence. When will I need to do this?
Yes.
For AA students, kailan nyo siya kailangan gawin?
Yes.
Waiting for graduation.
If you're done with coursework, but for some, you have a deficiency, waiting for graduation lang siya. For other programs, thesis stage, nasa thesis stage, wala nang course na. We go for other. Okay. What if I just don't have any course to enroll in for the current term? For this current term, second term, halimbawa. But I still have courses to take na I may take them ng term 3. Anong gagawin natin? Residency? Ha? Okay, ideally you should file for LOA. Kasi wala kang degree. Tapos hindi ka pa naman graduating. Diba? So the first option talaga is LOA. Although in other programs, and I guess here, we can still accept residents. Kaya lang kasi kung in terms of technicality and formal na procedure, it should be LOA. Not absent. Okay. Ayun, fill out the form correctly. If kailangan nyo ma-readmit, consult the PC. Although, the practice naman for AA is the PC emails you. I have your form for readmission, tapos these are the courses that you may take. Here's your updated program checklist. Baby, ang AA student. Ayun. Tapos, so you'll be, but the correct process talaga is you yourself, kasi nga ikaw yung may gusto magpa-readmit, di ba? So you have to tell it formally. This is what I want to do. Yan! Kunwari, yes.
About residency, sorry. What if I'm going to finish my start of all the courses with only the first term of an academic year? Eh, ang graduation ko is after the third term ba? Okay.
Okay. Next naman. Kunwari, okay kayo. Smooth sailing ang AA journey. Naka-reach tayo ng graduation na status. When you're done with all the coursework, regardless kung first term yan, second term, or third term, basta if that's your last term, you have to file for an application for graduation. Wait lang pala. Tapos, for first term, if let's not talk about the future plans yet, ha? Say, finishing lang AA. So if you're first term grad, first term filing of application for graduation, the graduation will be on that school year. Yeah. Pero, but all your records will state na first term grad ka of academic year, say, ngayon, 2014-2015.
So I can apply for a TOR na nag-re-reflect.
Oo, as soon as ma-finalize siya. So you just look at, take note of the schedule nga of the meetings for approval of graduation. Tapos, you can apply for necessary records, yes.
Alright.
Pwede yun immediately dun sa second term. Kaya lang, yun pala, the diploma and all that, syempre, ano pa yun? Oo. But still, if yung mga certifications lang and all that, for yung future mo na school, university, madali naman na yun gawan ng arrangement. If you want, sino dito ang gustong mag-best and BAMS after? Planning. Okay. If it's your last term in AA and you intend to be a best or BAMS student immediately after, say second term is your last term ngayon, gusto mo na third term, ayaw mong pahinga, gusto mo best student ka na agad, what shall you do? You have to apply as a new student under BEST program. So, ganun pa din na proseso, except of course the records. You can state naman through your cover email letter na I'm a graduating AA student, this is my last term. I plan to apply as a BEST student. Para you'll be considered dun sa list of applicants for new BEST students for third term. But you have to do it as early as now, kung graduating ka ha, even though hindi ka pa sure kung papasa ka ba dun sa... Ideally, yes, but you can inquire as early as now kasi because the admissions committee meetings naman, it's not before the registration.
That was what I was like before. There's parang may term na kapitan. We should still follow yung academic calendar for processing applications to the undergraduate.
Para technically, pwede ka nilang yun doon. Kasi yung iba, some of the applications, hinahabol na lang yun. Depende din doon sa PCs, hindi lang isang PC. Will you consider this for this term kahit lampas na yung the dates? Kapag nag-yes sila, swerte mo. Kasi, well, ano na lang yun, it's just special consideration. Siguro may extra time sila or whatever, or the feeling considerate. Pero, technically, hindi na talaga dapat. So, closely follow na lang the schedule. Ayun, if you want to finalize your AA status first, ito yun lang, file for application for grad, wait, at least one term na pagitan yun nga. That's the normal. Ayan! Gusto ko mag-apply ng new student ng residential CUs. You have to take note, you yourself has the responsibility to take note of their procedures, their schedules, their policies, and all that, mga requirements nila. But at the same time, you have to take note of our own procedures as well, yung mga diniscuss na tungkol sa graduation. But siguro yun, you can inquire through email na, okay po, this is my status in UPOU, ito pa lang po these are the formal paperwork that I can get request from them at this time, kasi ito, blah, blah, blah. Will you consider my application? Mga ganun ba? But that's your call. Hindi na yung call ng OU. At huwag niyong haharasin yung nasa record section na kailangan ko po kasi ng ganito para ma-allow ako for first sem ng UPLB, halimbawa. Tapos pala, hindi ka pa naman third grad ka pala this school year. Di the following pa yun, di ba? So the paperworks, wala pa yun. Internal arrangement lang muna yun dun sa CU na papasukan. Or, you can consider transferring na. Di ba? Don't waste your time anymore. If you find na this is really not for me, mag-residential talaga ako. So yun. Anyway. Questions? Yes, dear.
About that, so when we entered, nung 2013 report, makakalala pa po, she said that we have to finish the AA program before we can consider to transfer.
Yeah.
Kasi may mga program, I know why that's advice kasi there are programs na yun yung nare-require nila. Courses outside. Kaya yun na yung general advice. Finish AA first.
So that's
Kaya nga yun, take note of their requirements.
They will not accept you as an AA student if you haven't completed
As a new student.
the AA program. So it's a little bit unfair because if you were from anywhere else, they would accept you as your AA.
Okay, natin. Okay, ayun yung questions in your situation. I'm referring to you.
Good luck.
Question pa.
Okay, overtime na tayo. I'm so
Sorry, after time ng 5 minutes.
This is your last chance.
Although, kapag may naisip pa naman kayo, di ba? Pwede naman sa AA program, chair, mailer.
So, regarding that,
ayun siya. Kakasabi ko na yung old.
yes,
Yun lang pala.